talk back, but I know that your mouths are full, so it's okay for the first few minutes. Thank you for being here today, and I'm glad that you are. We're talking about this class and this topic today, and it was born out of, honestly, a seller just like gut punching me in a conversation. And so, we always share our successes. And so this conversation today was actually born out of a failure. And I had a little bit of time to recover. And so I want to just share that story with you and then walk you through this conversation. So, in the past 24, even 36 months, when you were up for a listing and someone was considering you, it was almost like the one that could get it on the market the fastest was the one that could win the listing. Would you guys agree with that? You're like, I can have your pictures tomorrow and I can have your sign in the yard and I can do this, it's just like the fastest one to the table. And so that's kind of been the cadence of conversation. I can do this and we can do this and we can do 15 open houses in 24 hours and right. And so we received a referral. It was someone in Laura, who's our closing coordinator. It was her sphere of influence. And she's known this lady for forever. And so when I called to set the appointment, she said, Nikki, thank you for calling me. And she said, yes, it's fine if you come out, this Friday at 3 p.m. That's no problem. She said, I just want to let you know, though, that I am interviewing other agents. And I just want to ask you, how is choosing you going to give me a leg up in the market? And I went, I froze, because I haven't had to have that conversation in 24 or 36 months. My conversation has been, we'll have 15 open houses, 24 hours, and I can have pictures tomorrow, but that's not the market we're in right now. And so it brought me back to, I have got to reacquaint myself with my unique value proposition. And I have to really become proficient again at answering that question. And so fortunately, I was able to say, you know what, that's a great question. And I cannot wait to discuss that with you this Friday at 3 o'clock when we meet. And it gave me time to come up with what we're going to talk about today. And so I do believe genuinely that over the coming weeks and even months, we have to nail this piece of our scripting. We have to nail it with buyers. We have to nail it with sellers, because people are going to have more choices. Would you agree with that? We've been moving at such a fast pace that people really haven't had time to think about any kind of a choice. Sellers haven't had much time to choose which offer they want to take. Buyers haven't had much time to choose which house they want to pick. There haven't been opportunities to make choices. And now I believe we're shifting into the land of opportunity to make choices. And so that's how this discussion is born today. So the conversation is what makes you unique. And I will share some things, some of our experiences today, but what makes me unique, what makes our team unique, I want to be super clear, is not what makes you unique, okay? So can we all just agree that that's the conversation today? This is not comparing. This is finding out what makes you unique, because we all have something super special to give, and we all have things about our service, our personality that makes someone say, yes, you are the best agent to help me and my family in this time. So if you think about it, I was just thinking about some brands that we're all familiar with, and I just wanted to share their value propositions with you. So Apple, to challenge the status quo and to think differently. So if you have an Apple product, by nature of their value proposition, you're somebody who believes in challenging the status quo and thinking differently. It makes you feel special. It makes you feel like you are progressive and that you're ahead of the game. Coca-Cola's UVP is to refresh the world and inspire moments of optimism and happiness. You guys remember, I'm dating myself, but you remember like I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony, right? That's been Coke's UVP ever since they were born. How many of you were trying to buy a Coke and find your name on it? a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was. Did it inspire happiness? They're constantly finding a way to live out their UVP. Facebook, to give people the power to build community so that we can bring the world closer together. How many of you have had the opportunity through Facebook to reconnect with somebody that you haven't physically seen in a very long time? It's their UVP. Microsoft is to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more through their software, through their programs, through their systems. Disney, to create happiness for people of all ages everywhere. I mean, it's Disney, right? So it's the happiest place on earth. Tesla, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Do they play that out? Anything you know about Tesla, do you believe that they live their UVP? Yeah. Do you guys see? Now there's one I'm going to give you that I want you to guess the company for. When it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight. FedEx. FedEx. Yes. Tell me something that you hear in that UVP.
Urgency.
Urgency. So overnight is urgency. What else?
It has to happen.
Confidence. Confidence. Yes, dependable. Confidence. They're making a promise, right? When it absolutely has to happen, we're the ones that can make it happen. So you just get an idea of these companies and how their UVP is all different, and yet they live it out. So why is it important for you to have a unique value proposition? Well, number one, it sets you apart. All of these things that we discussed with these companies sets them apart. Let me ask you a question. When you go to Universal Studios, they have rides, they have concessions, they have characters, but is it the happiest place on earth? Universal Studios?
No.
No. It's not Disney. Unless you're a Harry Potter fan, that's fair. It's different. They have the same things, and yet Disney's value proposition sets them apart and allows them to offer something else. If you're a Pepsi fan, I'm sorry. However, Pepsi does not inspire happiness with me. No, I'm kidding. Pepsi and Coke, they're both carbonated beverages, and yet there's just a different feeling when you see Coca-Cola, when you think about Coca-Cola. So your UVP sets you apart. Sometimes your UVP lets them know why they need you to be different. Sometimes, you guys, people don't know why they need you to be different. And so your value proposition is an opportunity for you to express that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Secondly, it aligns you with the market's needs. Kind of backing up point number two, sometimes consumers don't exactly know what they need. Would you guys agree with that, especially in our industry? Yes, I just heard a sigh. So, is it a fair statement to say that as the market shifts, we kind of have an understanding of it well before the general population catches up with it? And so as we're shifting, we're pivoting, we understand some things that they need well before they need it. And it is possible that your UVP, while the foundation of it may stay the same, there could be parts of it that changed based on the current market conditions. And so it aligns you with the market's needs, and sometimes they don't even know what they need. And also, sometimes it's a perceived need. So you get the opportunity to share with them that you're going to meet a perceived need, and you get the opportunity to share with them that you're going to meet a need that they don't yet know they have. Okay? Lastly, it attracts the ideal customer. And if you're taking notes and you write that word down, I would like you to circle and highlight and underline the word ideal. Because we are not trying to attract just any customer. but we're trying to attract the ones that are most like us that we choose to work with. And I don't know about you, but one of the reasons that I got into this business is so that I would have choices in my life. And that actually also just filters down to the people that I choose to work with each and every day. And so you get to, through your UVP, actually attract your ideal customer. And who Michael chooses to work with might be different from me. Michelle is always going to work with people that are like super design savvy. You guys, if y'all don't know this about, Michelle is my like this when it comes to design and decorating. I always have to single her out because I think she's awesome. So sorry, Michelle, I do that to you every time. But just to say that we all have somebody different that we're going to try to attract. And your UVP gives you the opportunity to do that. So there are 4 pretty basic steps to coming up with your UVP. And number 1, it's to identify who your ideal customer is. Now listen, you are probably going to want to write UVPs for several different things. For instance, you're going to have one for sellers. The conversation about the services you offer and what sets you apart for sellers is likely not going to be the same conversation that you're going to have if you're working with buyers. Do you guys understand that? If you're looking to work with investors, you're probably going to have, again, a separate UVP for when you want to work with investors. Teresa gave us amazing information today. If you're looking to work with people that are purchasing second homes or lake properties, you may have an entire UVP for that group of people. So don't get caught in the trap to think that you only have one UVP. Again, the foundations of it might be the same, but then you may build on it, different aspects of it, depending on the customer that you're trying to attract. Okay? What is another group of people that we might be writing a UVP to attract? If we want referral business, 100%. What else? Relocations?
I'm gonna say second homes, like mountain home people,
Second homes, mountain home people,
like home, like.
people transitioning into assisted living. There's a whole group of people there. Absentee owners.
Airbnb, investor type people.
I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And so once you get the outline of creating your UVP, you truly can write one for any group of people that you're wanting to attract. Step number 2 is list your benefits, value, and how you stand out. Now, this is the part where you have to really take that bold law that says don't compare your insides to other people's outsides, and you have to put it into practice. Because there are things that are uniquely you that nobody else does, or maybe other people do, but you have a different spin on them. And so right now, while you guys are in this moment and you're thinking, I'm just going to give you like 2 minutes to write down what you feel are the top 3 things that you offer people that you feel are unique to you or some of your best qualities in this business. And I'd like you to do that right now. Yes.
Sure. Ideally, when we're talking about UVP, how long? Like, I know, like, for elevator speeches, as a matter of fact, like, we want to keep it kind of short.
Yes.
So what's the ideal?
That's a great question, and I'm going to show you in just a few minutes.
Okay.
We're going to talk through, I brought the one that we created for sellers, and I was just going to talk through that with you guys, because most of the ones that we talked through with those other companies, it was a brief statement.
Right.
But then we have a brief statement, but then we have several different statements that go along up to that one statement. Okay? So we created, I'll just show you, a trifold pamphlet. So this is our UVP marketing piece for sellers.
Okay.
So it's based on this one statement right here, but then we go on to bullet point about 7 or 8 things that we feel are our top benefits and things that allow us to stand out. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine tuning mine right now. That's why I wanted to come.
Good.
To the kind of things we're doing.
Yes. Because to your point, there is that elevator speech part of it. But then there's the part of this conversation when you're actually sitting in front of somebody and you're in a competing conversation to win business, or you're having that consultation where you really want them to understand the value that you're going to provide, and it's so you can hit all these points. So that's where listing the benefits, and don't be afraid to list the values and benefits that come along with choosing to align yourself with KW. We have an amazing group of people here in the office that support us as a very high level. That is a huge value to your customers because you're supported, they're supported. That's something that I don't think we should ever overlook. Keller Williams is the #1 real estate company across the globe with over 180 agents, and 180,000 agents, excuse me. And I don't know how many locations. The reach, that's something that brings value. And so, whether you're new or experienced, there are things with our brokerage that you can build into your UVP that help someone understand not only why they should align with you, but why it's important that you aligned yourself with Keller Williams Realty. And I don't ever have a conversation, and I think this is an important place to pause and say this. Our Y4C2Ts, I think they're underutilized in conversation, and I think they're so important. The fact that we would all agree that relationships should be win-win or no deal, that we should act with integrity, that our customers should come first, that we believe in communication, that we have commitment in all things, that we believe in creative ideas, that we know as a team we achieve more together, that we know trust begins with honesty, that we believe in equitable opportunities for everyone, and finally that successful results are achieved through people. You guys, those things are foundational principles of any relationship that I don't know about you, but I want to be a part of that. And those things right there are huge, important pillars of why you're here, and I think should be talked about in your value proposition. So you can also fall back on that and use that in conversation. Anytime I'm having a tough conversation with any client, when we've talked about those at the beginning, and I get to say, whenever we first talked, I told you that I wanted you to trust me as the professional, and I told you that trust begins with honesty. And so I'm going to be really honest with you right now, even though it's tough. And so building those into your UVP is something that I believe we should all do. So I just want to point that out too. Number 3, be clear and specific. Okay. So it doesn't have to be big fancy words. And you kind of in this moment want to stay away from terms that the average person wouldn't understand. When we're in our own circle, we understand real estate related terms, but we have to remember that the people we're speaking with don't. And so we just want to be clear and specific and stay away from industry terms and just talk in for better word, layman's terms, right? I'm in a family full of nurses, and when they start talking about, yeah, their PPD42 was 89762, and I'm like, would you just speak English? I don't know what you're talking about, you know? And so many times when you're in a conversation like that, if you're speaking a term that someone doesn't understand, they're not going to stop you and say, you know what, I don't really know what you mean. They're just going to nod their head and move on, and they're going to miss the whole point of what you're trying to convey. And then the last thing is test and optimize. So what does this mean? It means put it out there, run it by a couple people, put it in front of them, have them read it without you putting any inflection or tone behind it. See how it comes across. Sit down with somebody and share it. Then put your tone and inflection behind it, see how it comes across. And then be open to feedback on it. You know, it really sounded good when you said this. I wasn't really sure what you meant when you said that. This was a little long-winded, right? Do this with people that you know really, really well, because sometimes somebody may say, man, you have to say this because you do this really well, and you're missing an opportunity if you don't say this. And then if you do it with people that maybe you don't know as well, they may say, you know what, I don't know, but I wasn't really sure what you said here. And then take it on a few listing appointments or buyer consultations, see how it flows. It's kind of a working document. So before we get into an actual example, are there any questions? Does it make sense? Okay. So again, before I share, I just want to say, this is unique to us. This doesn't have to be you. Everybody good with that? Okay. So the basis of our UVP for sellers is we've spent our 20 plus years in business building a reputable brand that works for you. And that's what we want to convey to sellers. So what does that mean exactly? Well, our pamphlet is called the BRG standard. So everything that we talk about with sellers is what they can expect when the Bonds Realty Group B is associated with their listing. Our phones are answered 7 days a week. So that just means, yes. No, go right ahead. And I will go on to say that it says, we've spent our 20 years in business building a reputable brand that works for you. When agents on the other side of the deal see our team's name, here's what they automatically know will happen during the transaction. How many of you have ever seen a listing agent's name on a listing and said, oh, Lord Jesus, please no?
Wow. Or you almost go another step and go, I just want to make sure that you're aware they don't normally answer their phones on the weekends. Or, yeah, I mean, like, you almost feel the need to prep.
It's like, where is the line? You know, it's kind of hard because you could prep, but then you also, at the same token, want to, you don't want them to feel like A, you're setting excuses, or B, you're trying to badmouth someone else. And so it's just this internal conversation that you're having with yourself, like, okay, how am I going to make this work? And yet there are other agents' names you see on the side and you're like, oh, thank you. This is going to be amazing. And I really, 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 really hope they pick this house.
Yeah.
You know? And so do we always get it right? Absolutely not. It's the goal to strive to have great relationships with co-ops. But based on the conversation and y'all's understanding of that, do you think it's important when a seller lists a property that they know that who they choose matters and who they're in business with matters? It absolutely does. And there are so many times when you look at a listing and it's just like half the information is filled out and the phone number is 0000000, and they won't answer their phone on the weekends. And it's just like, you are not getting the representation that you deserve. You know, this is potentially a really huge expense for them to trust an agent to handle this. And so, you know, that is, and so back to the point of sometimes you have to tell people that there's value in things they don't know there's value in. And I believe that we're coming out of a season where it's just like, hey, stick a sign in my yard. I'm going to get 47 offers in 3 hours, and we're going to get 50,000 over asking, and it's going to be great and wonderful. And the buyer's not going to ask for any repairs, and they're not going to balk about anything. So it really just doesn't matter if the agent is a professional or not, because I'm going to get to the closing table. But we're coming out of that environment. And so we're going to have to educate people on why our professionalism matters to them. Okay? So that's how this document was born. Again, back to the question, how is aligning with you, or why, if I choose you, am I going to have a leg up in my selling experience? So our phones are answered 7 days a week. Our agents are full-time professional agents. Our listings are easily accessible. So that means the key is actually going to be in the lockbox. Okay. If there's a gate code, it's going to be available. The lockbox is going to be at the house. The information is readily going to be available, which means the disclosures will be online. There'll be a book of disclosures in the house. How many times have you wanted information and you just couldn't get it? Your people are like, I'm ready to make an offer, but I just really want to know X about the house first. And you're like, but we could get that in due diligence. And they're like, but no, I really want to get it now, right? So these are little things to you guys, maybe. It's that perceived value. It's letting them know what's important to them, because they may not know it needs to be important to them. We believe in win-win relationships for everyone. The other agent's commission is protected. We never cut a co-op agent's commission. Our brokers are available and answer their phones and email. How many times have you had an issue with another brokerage and the broker never answers the phone, never picks up the phone? Our brokers are available to answer their phones. Our supporting team, attorneys, couriers, etc., are prompt, available, and have attention to detail. We give of our time to teach other agents and other offices. We come from a place of contribution in the community. Our platform is to serve, and that makes our name one that can be trusted among our peers. So that is the BRG brand standard. That's the message we hope to convey about our team in the community and among the agents who may see our listing and want to bring their buyers. Again, do we get it right 100% of the time? We don't. We try to make it right when we screw up, and we do, because we're human. But the point is that this is what we want to convey to people when they choose to list with us, is that this is the kind of reputation that we're going to uphold in the industry, and that their house will be represented well. And so many times they don't know that these are the important things. They don't understand that there's no disclosures out. They don't understand their agent's not answering the phone at night. They don't understand that they've aligned with a brokerage, that the brokers are notorious for never answering their phone. They don't understand that if they submit earnest money to that brokerage, by the way, this is a true story, it took us over 65 days to get the earnest money released because the broker wouldn't answer his phone. They don't understand those things. And so that's where you have an opportunity to tell them what should be important to them. Any questions or comments about this?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are working on the one for buyers. We don't have it printed yet. We just got finished with this one. The one for buyers mentions that we have aligned with professionals in the area of attorneys and mortgage consultants and home inspectors that are ready and available. They understand the importance of due diligence, the time constraints there. There are tools and resources for different kinds of financing. Again, our agents are full-time professional agents. Well, again, you built the foundation, and so some of those pieces cross from one UVP to another. So this is where now you can take the different pieces of who you're trying to attract, use the foundation, and then just pull in some unique pieces depending on who you want to. Yes, yes, yes.
Nikki, can you talk about when, where, and how you're using this? Is this a pre-marketing piece? Is it part of your listing presentation?
It is both. So when the market shifted, we really got away from pre-listing packages in the last market because quite honestly, we just didn't have time to get them out there. And so now that we have more time, we have condensed our pre-listing package to this pamphlet and a similar pamphlet that just outlines some of our reviews and where people can go to read our reviews, and a handwritten note with a little like Bonds Realty Group candle. And that is the gift that's left at the front door. Then we do bring it along on the listing presentation. We have gone away a little bit. If you've attended any of our other listing classes, you know that we kind of go through the cadence of what's going to happen. We'll put the lockbox and the sign and we'll go online. We do still take that with us, but we open with the Y4C2Ts and this piece because we feel like it's really, really important to hit this first. We end up talking about the cadence of what will happen after we kind of talked pricing. One of the questions that we've begun to ask before we sit down, aside from the motivation, like, you know, can you share with us a little bit about your decision to move or what's motivating you to make a move? Once they share with that, we'll usually say, you know, we've got some really fun and exciting things that we'd like to share with you today. But before I begin, I'd just like to ask, is there any topic or concern that you have that you'd like to make sure that we address today? So then if they say, well, I'm really worried about safety, or I'm really worried about commission, or, you know, whatever they say, then I can make sure that if it's one of those cadence of just process pieces, I can touch on it. But it just makes sure that I don't spend time on some things that maybe really aren't as important to them. So yes, pre-list and listing presentation. So I had pledged to keep my time today to 30 minutes. I'm just like at 35. So I will hang out for conversation. I have an entire hour to be here, but I know that right after team meeting, you guys have been here a long time, and I know you have things to do, and I wanted to respect your time. So I'm here for questions. You guys are welcome to come up and look at this and take pictures. We buy this paper from Office Depot and print it on our regular printer that's just like the one back in the resource room. So these are not sent away to a printer. We print these ourselves, and it's on the special trifold paper. So we make these ourselves. It's really easy to do. All right.
Thank you very much.
You guys are welcome.
Thank you.